All India Radio, Chennai. In tonight's program of English, we feature an interview titled Reviving the Fading Legacy of Indian Culture. In this program, S. Jayakumar, conservator, is interviewed by Amrit Bhargava, advocate. This is the concluding part.
Listeners, welcome to the second part interview with Mr. S. Jayakumar, the founder of Courtyard Tours, Prastara and Tuhil, all initiatives associated with the cause of conserving heritage treasures. In this part of the interview, we shall endeavor to get into some of the finer parts of the aesthetics and the historical value of the culture that is uniquely ours. After all, what is that crest jewel of Tamil culture? Temples, which are scattered across this ancient peninsula. Don't we speak of the massive monolithic sculptures of the Pallavas, the deeply carved motifs of the great living Chola temples, the intricate marvels at Tirukkurungudi, the cavernous interiors of the Ramanatha Swami temple at Rameshwaram, the royal majesty of Rajarajeshwaram, the sacred radiance of the Kamakshi temple at Kanchipuram, or the rare portrayals of the Vilvalaitha Vinayagar at Udayarpalayam or the Villendi Avelan at Chayavanam in Nagapatnam, the list is engagingly endless. What is this variety of temples and why were so many temples built according to you?
It's going to take a while to answer that question. So, as I mentioned, right from the time of Tolkapiyam and Silapadikaram and Sangam poetry, the Sangam era as we know, every literary work speak about religious activities, the religious belief system that existed among all kinds of people. It could be different communities, it could be different tribes. They all had their own set of rituals and religious practices and beliefs. And right from the Velan Veriyadal, from there to today's Murugan Kavadi or all that activity, including the Timidi, walking on the fire pit, all that have been from time immemorial. The primitive practices, the primitive belief system have been sort of structured in a way that is being followed by a larger community today. The reason why many temples, again, it goes on to show how much of religious and spiritual traditions that we have had and still continue to have. And not only the Chola or the Pallavas or the Pandyas, as you just drive down today from here towards Madurai, you see temples being built even today. The practice of building a temple is, I think it's sort of ingrained in our system. Anything that is sacred, anything that is precious is worshipped. That's why we end up worshipping trees, plants and water bodies, rivers, whatnot. Even the ocean, we consider them to be a deity. Rightfully so, the Naidal god is Varunan. Even today we keep on building temples. When it comes to the Bhakti movement and to speak in a historical context, as I said, temple building was one of the primary activity in the society. Not only for a spiritual or a religious purpose, but also, as I said, as a social or a society that required that to exist so that everything was arranged, put in a particular order. So temples functioned and they played a very, very significant role, especially during the medieval times. They became a center of power, center of attraction, and also comes along with that is a very, very strong and spiritual tradition. For example, when you speak about Rajarajeshwaram, the Cholas followed the Pashupata sect of Shaivism, and you also had many people built temples for Vishnu as well. You have the Cholas giving endowments to build Buddhist and Jain shrines as well. So along with being a center for art and architecture and also the administrative purpose, we also have had a very, very strong and spiritual and religious notion right from the beginning of the civilization. So I think that the existence of more than 40,000 temples is, in a way, it is justified because every community, every village, every street, they want to have something to hold on to believe into. So I think that is the whole purpose of this, to lead us to somewhere, to put it in a very religious and spiritual context.
Surely temples are the pivot of the cultural and spiritual life of this part of India. What are those aspects of Tamil music, particularly the instruments, the folk traditions which are also associated with the temples, or the traditions, music and dance associated with the legends of each temple? What are those aspects of the culture that need preservation?
When it comes to the performing arts in Tamil Nadu, be it classical or regional. Temples have played a very, very important role, not only for giving them musicians and artists to give them opportunity, but also ensured the art form itself is safeguarded. On a daily basis, dance and music was integral part in the temples of Tamil Nadu. So are the other art forms. We all speak about Nadaswaram and Tavil and the Shaivite hymns such as Devaram and all the Pannir Tirumurais being chanted in temples by Oduvar community. But you also have had many regional practices such as Tolpavai Kuthu. And also you have Villupattu being associated with temples, particularly in Nagarkoil and Kanyakumari region. These temples were the custodians of such art forms. They protected the art form itself, also the artists and artisans who performed it. When it comes to particular tradition, for example, let's say Thiruvarur, you also have a traditional Nadaswaram Melam in all the Shaivite temples as well as Vaishnavite temples, which is historically known as the Periya Melam. In Thiruvarur, you have a very peculiar instrument called Bharinayanam, a shorter one. It looks like Shenai. It's a little longer than Shenai, which is accompanied by a particular percussion instrument called Kodugotti or Kidigitti. It's a double-headed instrument. And you also have a Panchamukha Vadya, which is known as Kudamura. Right from the times of the Cholas, the Kudamuras have been integral part of the Shaivite temples. There are only 2 temples in Tamil Nadu which has this instrument, Kudamura, Panchamukha Vadya, one in Thiruvarur, one in Tirutirapundi. There is a manuscript that is there. It's called Panchamukha Vadya Lakshanam, which is preserved by the family, which is still performing in Thiruvarur temple. Unfortunately, in Tirutirapundi temple, it's been kept under lock and key because there are no musicians to play. Because the compensation that the artists would get who are working in temples are very, very less today. In my NGO, we are trying to revive and restore some of these traditional musical art forms. And in Avudiyar Koil, you have the Gettu Vadyam that is slowly forgotten. You have a musician called Avudiyar Koil Subramaniam who used to play this Gettu Vadyam. After that Gettu Vadyam is supposed to be played in that Avudiyar Koil temple on a daily basis, which is slowly lost now. And a lot of musical pieces, the compositions. For example, Mallaris, usually when the god is kept on the palanquin, when he or she is brought on the palanquin, they play the Mallari. And you also have a particular piece called Odakuru, especially played in the Shaivite temples when the Bhikshatana form of Shiva is being brought out. Odakuru speaks about the decaying body, the mortality of this human body. It is very philosophical. That's why it's called Odakuru, Udarkuru. That became Odakuru. Those compositions are lost because the traditional artists have been sort of chased away from this temple. I'm using the word very carefully because they are literally chased away because they are not being compensated properly. As a society, as a community, we are all very proud of our heritage and culture. On the other hand, the way we treat our heritage and the hereditary communities are not justified at all. So that's where our problem lies.
Well, there is so much to be done for temples and its associated art, so special to each temple, looking at the local diversity that you have just pointed out. There is an element of transcending time which is also involved here, which is about the upcoming future, the future generations. Don't you think that youngsters have to be taught how to appreciate art and it needs to be part of their education?
Brilliant. We need to bring in heritage education as part of our curriculum, at least as an elective subject in schools and colleges where if somebody is very keen to explore into all these things, they should be given a chance to. Because apart from few elements in history and heritage, no school speaks about these things. We have slowly taken away the Alvar Pasurams and Devaram hymns. Even for the Buddhist and Jain texts are forgotten, not at all spoken about in the schools. And those things have to be taught. Also, the tangible and the intangible heritage both do exist equally in our country. On one hand, we have enormous amount of temples that we can look and learn from. But also on the other hand, you have certain things that are not tangible and that have to be sort of safeguarded and also to be trained. The many people have to be trained in the area of heritage and culture. So that's the way to go about it.
A special word about the murals and fresco traditions of Tamil history is also relevant.
Yeah.
It is believed that the murals in the Brihadishwara temple at Tanjavur or those surrounding the Potramarai Kulam at the Madurai temple, followed by those dashing shades at the Kallalagar temple at Tirumalirunjolai, or the awe-inspiring murals at the Devashraya Mandapam in Tiruvarur, which is supposed to rival those of there at the Sistine Chapel at Rome, they convey a lot of meaning. What is this aspect of temple art about?
Okay. So when it comes to worshipping different types of images, we have three. You have the Chitra, and you have the Chitrardha and Chitrabhasa. Chitra, usually it is understood as a painting, but according to Shilpa Shastra, Chitra is a three-dimensional sculpture. And you have the Chitrardha, which is the bas relief. That is Chitrardha. Paintings are considered to be Chitrabhasa. In ancient times, we have worshipped all the three types of images. In Kerala, as you know, the Kalamiluthu or Kalam, you paint, you use the color powder to create a divine image on the floor. During Bhagavati Seva in Kerala, we still draw and then worship the deity, and there is also a procedure codified in Shastras how to sort of move it away after the ritual is done. In Tamil Nadu also, historically, Agamas also speak about painting the Koshtas images, painting the Vimana in a particular color. Today we use all kinds of paints, but in Agamic scriptures, these are all very codified. The paintings are also sacred. As you know, in Kailashanatha temple in Kanchipuram, and also you have the beautiful Chitanavasal paintings, the Jain cave, and also you have the Brihadishwara temple paintings, as well as you rightly mentioned about till about 17th, 18th century, we have had an extraordinary tradition of murals. So these are pretty much in part of temples activity that Sthala Puranas are largely conveyed through these paintings. The origin of the particular, since you spoke about Devashraya Mantapa murals in Tiruvarur temple, it speaks about how King Muchukunda brought the image of Tyagaraja to Tiruvarur, and all the 6 other forms of the Tyagaraja images are kept in different temples which form the Saptavitanka Sthalas. In a way, it conveys us so much about the temple, the devotees who have prayed and worshipped in this temple, the saints and the wonderful rishis and the siddhas who have walked inside the temple. The murals are as equally as important as the structure itself. Those are also slowly sort of given up. And lot of, in fact, in Parayar, in Tanjavur region itself, you have hundreds of temples which has the Nayak period and the post-Nayak period, Maratha period murals. Those are all very much in part. Apart from Kerala, none other South Indian state have that tradition alive. In Kerala, to an extent, the mural traditions are preserved by various communities. They are still used. The artisans are still called to work in these temples. They still restore and keep the tradition alive.
Surely temples do represent the microcosm of all that India has contributed to the world in all these hundreds of years. Thank you, Mr. S. Jayakumar, for this analysis and discussion in history and heritage for this 2-part series, where we have seen many aspects of temple architecture, history, and its associated relics.
Listeners, in tonight's program of English, you just listened to an interview titled Reviving the Fading Legacy of Indian Culture. This is a concluding part in which S. Jayakumar, conservator, was interviewed by Amrit Bhargava, advocate. With that, we come to the end of this edition of Program in English, and this broadcast came to you from the Chennai studios of All India Radio.